battling a 4-alarm fire at a warehouse. This is happening at Richmond and Tioga Streets. Let's go right to report.
You know, the Bible says that we are called to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our mind. And I've discovered that love, it begins with attention. And so I've decided that this week I'm going to give God a little bit more of my attention and give some of the distractions in my life just a little bit less. I don't know about you, but I find it so easy to get distracted. I find it so easy to just get off course with God and get distracted by trying to entertain myself. And then I find that I don't have patience for anybody else. And I don't have patience for the things of God, for those interruptions where somebody needs a little extra love. And then all of a sudden, because I haven't given the right amount of attention to God and to the people around me, all of a sudden, when God really needs me, I'm just not ready. And that's what hit me as I read this past Sunday's readings while I was sitting at Mass and as I listened to them. You know, Jesus says that we are called to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all of our mind. And that's worth more than any burnt offering or any sacrifice. In other words, love is worth more than even going to Mass. In fact, the church would teach that if you go to Mass and you don't actually love, according to Lumen Gentium, you might not be saved. That's a really scary thought. So that Mass without love for God, without love for other people, really is almost like receiving God's grace, as it says in Lumen Gentium, in vain. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to go to church and waste my time. I want to go to church and receive God's grace and not let it be given to me in vain. And so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to church and I'm going to pray that I have the ability to love God with all my heart and soul, and to love the people around me with all my heart and soul. And I've discovered that love, real love, comes from giving attention. It begins with attention. And it begins with giving attention to the things that are important. So if I want to love God with all my heart and all my soul and all my mind, I've got to give God a little bit of attention. And if I want to love the people around me with all my heart and all my soul and all my mind, I've got to give them a little attention too. And honestly, that's all the cross is. It's God giving us His attention and asking for ours in return. God looks at us and He says, this is the penalty for sin. This is how bad sin is. That's what should happen to you when you sin. If that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what will. And yet God also says, if you want to know how much I love you, this is how much I love you. That's how bad sin is, and that's how much I love you, says God. If that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what will get your attention. And you see, sometimes it's not that we don't want to give God attention, it's just that we've already committed our attention to so many other things. And so this week, as I read these readings and reflect on what Father said in the homily, I realize that if I want to love the Lord my God, as it says in the Scriptures, with all my heart, with all my soul, and with all my mind, that begins with giving God my attention. And the good news is that God has already given me His attention. He's already decided to die on the cross for my sins. And yet the reality is that sometimes when I give those other people my attention, they don't love me back. But the reality with God is that God has already decided to love you back. He says, this is how much I hate your sin, and yet this is how much I love you. This week, as you think about the Sunday readings, realize that you have God's full attention. The question is does God have yours?